Hi folks, Mr. Long here. I just want to give you a bit of review work to work on in terms of sketching parabolas before we start this in full tomorrow. So here we go, guys and girls. There's the big question: what is the value of y at the x-intercept? So if we're looking at this, I'm looking right here. There's the x-intercept, right there. So if I look there. If I look across, well, what's the y value right here? Because this is the y-axis. The value of y is 0, right, at the x-axis. The value of y is 0. So if I solve any equation and I set y equal to 0, well, in this case, the solutions are x equals 1 and x equals 4. And that's how I graph my x-intercepts, right? I have to set the value of y equal to 0. Okay, so we're going to do some factoring. And this is just review from grade 10. Okay, so the value of y at the x-intercept is 0. Oh, by the way, there's your y-intercept. Okay, let's factor and sketch this. We're doing what are called simple trinomials. So in this case, in all of these cases today, a equals 1, that's a 1 there, b equals negative 12, and c equals negative 28. I have to come up with factors, right? In order to do this, I've got to write it in this form. Y equals x with a factor and x with a factor here. Right, I'm writing it in brackets. It's the opposite of expanding. So, or the distributive law, or what you might have known as FOIL. So what I need to do is to come up with two numbers. The product is a times c, which is 1 times by negative 28. Well, if the product is a times c, that means the two numbers have to multiply to negative 28, and they have to have a sum. They add up to b. In this case, that's negative 12. So what numbers multiply to 28? Well, 4, 7, 1 and 28, 14 and 2. Now, they have to add to a negative. So I want you to reason through this. They have a sum of a negative, and they have a product that's negative. What kind of numbers multiply to a negative? Well, a positive and a negative multiply to a negative. I'm right here, folks. A positive and a negative multiply to a negative. But if they add up to a negative, which one is bigger? Well, clearly the negative is bigger. So I've got a big negative, a small positive. So I just go through my factors, which ones work. So I've got this 14 right here. Like 4 and 7, there's no way to combine 4 and 7 and have them add up to negative 12. I have a sum of negative 12. But if I look at 14 and 2, sure, the negative one has to be bigger, the 14. So it's going to work out to be minus 14 and plus 2. So what I do is I just put those in here. Minus 14 plus 2. And now what I do, remember the value of y equals 0. 0 equals x minus 14, x plus 2. And then if it's 0. So for this left side to be worth 0, one of these factors has to be 0. So either x minus 14 equals 0, which would give x equals 14, or x plus 2 equals 0, which would give us x equals negative 2. So now I can sketch it. Okay, those are my x-intercepts now. Okay. So again, this is the equation, or the function, like the relationship between x and y. This is a related equation to solve for the x-intercepts, and these right here are the x-intercepts. So what would it look like? Well, it would just go through negative 2 and go through 14, and it would look like this. Right? All of these are going to be smiling. So it goes through negative 2 and 14. Okay, folks? So that's your nice parabola right there. I'm not even going to worry about the y-intercept. I just want to sketch these with x-intercepts. Okay, so remember to pause at any time and go over things just to make sure you've got it. Okay, so this one here. In this case, let's graph y equals x squared minus 8x. So a equals 1, b equals negative 8, and c equals 0. So remember that our product is a times c, so a product is 0, and the sum is negative 8. Well, what two numbers have a product of 0 and a sum of negative 8? I think this one's pretty obvious. Negative 8, comma, 0, right? So y equals x with a bracket, x with a bracket, and so it's x minus 0, x minus 8, but that's kind of a silly thing to write, so I write it as x bracket x minus 8. So now we again set this equation equal to 0. 0 equals x bracket x minus 8, so I have either x equals 0 or x minus 8 equals 0, which gives x equals 8. I'm doing this fairly quickly because I know it's review, so I think what you should do is if you're going, what is he doing, then go back, pause, and go over it, and just pause at various steps to see what's happening. I just want to go through it fairly quickly so that you're able to do the questions. Okay, so we've got that, x equals 8, and then, so these are our two x-intercepts, right? Got an x-intercept of 0 and x-intercept of 8, so if we're to sketch this, 0 and 8, and it's a nice smiling parabola, like so. Okay, sketching with x-intercepts. Again, it's all this product and sum. Let's try number 3, x squared minus 25. I could rewrite that and say it's x squared plus 0x minus 25. In this case, I'll write it over here, a equals 1, b equals 0, and c equals negative 25. So the product is negative 25, the sum is 0. Okay, what are our numbers? Well, if the sum is 0, I know that one of them, one has to be the opposite of the other. So it's clearly a positive and a negative, and they have to be of the same magnitude or same size. So like plus 5 and minus 5, minus 10 and plus 10, etc. So which numbers work? Well, negative 5 and positive 5 work in this case because they multiply to negative 25. So I have this equation, 0 equals x minus 5, x plus 5, and then what makes that bracket worth 0? X equals 5, and what makes that bracket worth 0? X equals negative 5, and it's really a factor that's worth 0. They call it the zero factor property. And these are our two x-intercepts, right? There and there. So then we draw a sketch. Negative 5, positive 5, and a nice smiling parabola. Okay, nice smiling parabola. Sound good? And let's see, let's go on again. Again, rewind and go over this again to see. By the way, we call this a difference of squares. Look at that. A difference, negative. And x squared is a square, it's x by x. 25 is a square, it's 5 by 5. Okay, but I don't want to do it that way today. I just want to be able to do this. Okay, x squared plus 10x plus 25. A equals 1, b equals 10, c equals 25. So two numbers that have a product of 25 and a sum of 10. So what number multiplies to 10, or multiplies to 25 and adds to 10? Well, it looks to me like it's 5 and 5. So let's go over this again. 5 and 5 makes, 5 plus 5 is 10, 5 times 5 is 25. That works. So y equals x plus 5 multiplied by x plus 5. Oh, but then there's a more efficient way to write that. X plus 5 squared. Oh, so then I have to go x plus 5 equals 0 to make 0, or x equals negative 5. So what I'm going to do now is draw a sketch. There's negative 5. So this is interesting because there's only one x-intercept, x equals negative 5, and it's what we call a double or repeated 0, a double 0. So it just sort of kisses the x-axis, okay, kisses the x-axis. Ooh, that's a terrible parabola. Make sure yours graph is better. Okay, so if you notice, we did 4 questions. There's 4 distinct types of questions there, and I think you'll be able to go through this and do it. Again, every single one is done with the product and sum. Okay, so you need to know about factors. If your product is a negative, you have to have a negative and a positive, etc. Okay, folks, and then you should do, once you've watched this, I'm sending out just a list of questions, and you'll go through and and write the equation in X-Intercept form and then sketch, okay? I would encourage you just to use Desmos if you want to check and see if your sketches are right. Okay, so good luck doing this, and have this done please before class tomorrow, and that way we can quickly get into some new stuff.